So how can we best retain what we've learned in the course?
Advanced classes just start becoming like, here's a scenario, don't die. KCC started officially like as a program. I started filming the stand-up stuff at the time. It was just I had like a 30-day stand-up curriculum.
Yeah, Kill cam on that would be sick. It's like, whoa! How the f*** you do that?
Oh, I know an answer for this.
Kyle, are we rolling?
Everything's rolling.
Everything's rolling? Cool. So we've been rolling this whole time?
Roll.
Good.
Perfect.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, so we'll just get the intros out of the way, like who each of you are,
Mike has to go first.
and and what do you know? You know.
What do I know?
What do you know, Mike?
What do you know?
what you
Like,
know.
what do you claim to know?
Okay. I'll come up with a fun fact. My name is Mike Cheney. I'm 1/3 of Knife Control Concepts. I'm a first-degree black belt under Dion Thompson. I am in Taekwondo, yeah, exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
That was my original martial art. Let's see, I've been running the program at your joint for like 8-ish plus, something like that. It's been a minute. Push on it now. And then started doing Knife Control Concepts about 5-6 years ago. And here we are.
He's also a incredible kickboxer.
I dabbled.
Yeah.
I dabble.
Sneaky.
That
Everybody
was-
thinks he's the jiu-jitsu guy, and then he puts on gloves and shin guards, and he sweeps everybody, beats the living crap out of them.
That was actually my first martial love. That Muay Thai. So.
Yeah, he doesn't like to talk about himself, so he leaves out all these things about like 16 years of wrestling, and yeah. Anyway,
I don't do anything else. It's just this, some podcasts, and then I talk about what I just did.
loves coffee. He's
I
a coffee
love
connoisseur.
I sell coffee. Yes.
Yeah.
I have my own coffee you can buy. Redbird coffee.
Oh, do you roast it too?
I don't roast it. I'm a middleman entirely.
Not quite that into
No.
it. You know?
The first time I tasted it, people were like, "Do you have bags of coffee?" And I was like, "Nope." And they're like, "Why?" And I was like, "It's drop shipping. It's supposed to be like, so I don't have the inventory. That's the point of it." And they're like, "All right."
He's the equivalent of like 70% of the bourbon industry now, where it's like they don't actually make their own stuff anymore. They like
it's
casually
all-
test it, and then they send it off to somebody else to make it.
It's all white labeled.
Yeah.
But it's Brazilian, so it, you know,
There you
falls
go.
under the same umbrella.
Play.
It's authentic.
Yeah.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
Now we got.
Ow.
Now we have a full
Yes.
background. Yeah.
I'm getting married next month. I mean, all sorts of stuff.
He's got a cat.
I have a cat and a Pomeranian.
Wow, this is the most in-depth podcast
Most people-
we've heard on Mike
Most
so
people
far.
would assume I'm, you know, I do love pit bulls, but like I'd have 10 pit bulls or something, but I have a Pomeranian.
A Pomeranian and a cat. That's the extent of it.
So did you buy the Pomeranian,
No.
or did your girlfriend buy
He's
the
marrying
Pomeranian?
into the Pomeranian.
I'm
He's
married,
marrying into
yeah.
the Pomeranian.
She's my step Pomeranian.
Yeah.
The cat was mine though. The cat's mine. It was actually my sister's cat, and we commandeered her. She's fucking 17. She's just, dude, she's awesome. She's trucking along.
Old and fat.
Yeah, no, she's skinny as hell.
Really?
Yeah,
Ah,
she's brittle.
okay.
I'm just like, all right, but still athletic as hell. So
Probably more athletic than I'll ever be.
yeah.
Especially at that age.
It's the
17
carnivore. It's
isn't
the,
cat
the
year.
obligate carnivore diet. That's what
Probably
keeps you
his
young.
start.
This is the most he's talked on a podcast in
I had so much coffee on the way down.
that 9 hours in the car really gets to you.
Had some thoughts.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you didn't talk the whole way? Or what? You don't
no,
talk
we
all the
did.
time? Yeah.
You're
Okay.
breaking it down. And we also listened to some hardcore history.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one.
Small town murders.
Okay. Was it which one for hardcore history?
Yeah.
Subjugation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've listened to the Mongol one, the World War I one.
The World War I one's sick.
Yeah. Super good
That's
stuff.
tough to go to sleep to when he's talking about like gruesome shit. You're just like, they were gassed, and you're just like, oh, fuck. A little rough, but
It's such a long podcast too.
I straight up, man. Like he was like, oh yeah, you ever listen to hardcore history? I was like, no. Put it on, and then like I'm like listening. And I look down at the progress bar, and it like hasn't even moved. I was like, this is like a 6-hour podcast. Like, oh my gosh,
it takes some work.
You think Jocko's is bad?
Yeah.
Man.
He's been up since 3:30 podcast.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
early to like have that much in depth on some things. It's crazy. But I dig it. Is that it? You finally got it all out of you?
yeah, come back to me. I might
Yeah.
add something.
He hunts.
I
kills
do
deer.
hunt, yeah.
Yeah,
Squirrels.
nice.
Going for some turkeys here
So
soon.
that's why you're off in the fall.
Yeah.
Yeah. See,
That's why we don't travel in the fall. Yeah.
See, like that's why I moved my rank testing because I had to keep October, November, December free to go hunt.
If it's like any morning or any time period. I'm like, I got 3 hours. I can get out there if I get up. I gotta get up at 1:30 a.m. and then I have to fucking skunk out in the woods. But worth it.
Yeah.
Also-
you doing anything for turkey season?
Yeah. It'll be April through May. So
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Trying to go public. That's the hard part.
I always hunt public, and I've never shot a turkey on
Yeah.
public.
The place we're going, my buddy shot one last year, but it ran off. He didn't get it. So he shot something.
Some dude found it in a field and was like, "Ah, it's a dead turkey. This is nice."
Yeah.
Like mine, dibs.
Speaking of hunting, 3-time chili champion at
Two-time,
Endeavor to-
two-time, I wish, yeah.
2-time chili
I will be
champion
a
at Endeavor
three-time.
Defensive Fitness.
Okay.
Yeah. So get my deer, I shoot it. Then we have the first chili cook-off, smoked everybody.
Yeah, it wasn't even close. I mean, he blew everybody out of the water. We do a chili cook-off every year, by the way, at the gym.
Yeah, 2-time champion.
Yeah.
This the second time we had blind taste testing. We had blind judges. It wasn't biased. I did pay them off the first time. It was rigged.
Free membership.
Second time blind taste testing, and I still won.
Yeah.
And my
Reigning
chili was
champion.
gone first.
Yeah. It's really freaking good.
It is
chili.
good.
Like, yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good chilies, but his are. Yeah.
It's like kind of a copy of Stephen Rinella's recipe that I doctored up a little bit.
Yeah. That's good stuff.
Squirrels as well. Love squirrel hunting.
Do you crock pot them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I've tried them like fried over a campfire and just let it skillet. Nah.
The first time I made like hot wings, and like I fried them way too much. Like I seared them. I was just like, you really had to work at it. Like,
Yeah, I was like,
those things put up a fight.
I was like, nah. Like to me, like when they're skinned, it's like it looks too much like a rat to me.
Yeah.
But once they get in a crock pot and it's just the limbs, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's just seeing the whole like rat, and I'm like, I'm about to eat a rat right now, a large rat. Like
Flying tree rats, man. Come on.
I just think of that. What is it? Is it Demolition Man when Sylvester Stallone's like, "What is this? What's this?" He's like, "Carne de rata." Like, he's like, "Good old rat burger."
Yeah. You take all the fur off, and you're like,
This is what we're down to.
You take the skin off the tail and all the fur, and you're like, oh, I have a rat.
Like,
There's a rodent.
Gotta hang that from the ear, man. It's like a reverse Davy Crockett.
Oh, have you seen a place? Oh my gosh, called what's that place called? It's gonna come to me here in a second. Oh, Scraggly Bush Products.
No.
You have to visit
Scraggly
this site.
Bush Products.
Have to visit
Noted.
this. It's not sponsored on this podcast, but
It's
they
enjoyable.
basically
Yes.
sell bad,
Yes.
bad like googly-eyed taxidermy.
Oh, yeah.
but that's like beer koozies.
Someone sent me like
It is veteran owned, and
that's
Sounds about right.
Someone sent me templates for squirrel skin wallets. And I was
that's
like,
what they do.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so they have a squalid.
Yep, squirrel it.
So like it's it has a deer beater.
I would carry the shit out of a squallet.
Yeah. I'll make you a squallet.
Kim might cry though. She'd be like, "What was that squirrel's name?" My wife feeds squirrels in our
Oh,
backyard,
nice.
and I'm like, constantly
Domestic
out-
squirrels are way different. Those are pets. You out in the wild, those wild squirrels, they challenge you.
Yeah, they'll bite your face off.
Yeah, they fight back.
You ever seen the dude on Instagram that's got builds a squirrel house outside of his back patio, and he's got like, he names all the squirrels. He's got Hood Rat Randy and a bunch of other like. I love that dude.
There's another guy who set up like a nice bird feeder and he just smokes them. With he like gets him in the chair. He's like, well, check this out. Slow-mo, just like, boom, like. That's just on YouTube, But you can't say violence or like can't say certain words. Show a rodent's head
You can
exploding.
show rodents getting smoked.
That's fine. As long as there's some like Benny Hill music to it or something. Like,
God bless it.
It's a cultural
Squirrels.
experience.
Yeah.
So you can't ban people's culture on YouTube. So.
Right. I mean, that makes sense. That would be prejudicial in some way.
It would
my
be.
main goal is to get one with a blow dart gun. That's my,
Oh, there you go.
That one?
Yeah.
The blood already? Yeah. Oh yeah, we talked about that. Yeah.
I got one.
So have you got one with like a slingshot yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
I had the gnarliest shot with the 22. I was like bent over like sideways, and there was like two of them fighting over a nut. I got one of them. Another one just looked at the dead body and just sauntered off, very chill. So,
Did
think
he
pop both of them?
He cut the nut.
I'm sure he assumed he did that with his mind. He's just like, I just blew up his enemy's head. So that squirrel thinks he's hot shit.
That's how we're spending our downtime.
It's been a long
What's the
drive.
secret to y'all's success in squirrel hunting?
No, that's how I spend my downtime too. It's like if I'm in the fall, it's like, so what are you doing? So like over the only week you have off, well, I'm gonna go camp in the woods,
Hunting, yeah.
wake up at 4 a.m. and hike up this mountain, and then come back and teach classes. And I'm like, oh, I'm exhausted. And people are like, well, you're stupid. That's why. Like,
You had
like, you
downtime
go-
and you skipped it.
I'm like, sorry guys, I got squirrel blood all over my hands. I gotta wash this off. Then we'll do some chokes.
You just rub it in someone's mouth. Like, I killed
you
that
go.
squirrel this morning.
Spirit of the squirrel.
And now we've known more about Mike than
Well, and that's
Yeah.
that's what we need. We need to interrogate him at some point. Yeah.
That's fine, yeah.
That's the is that the problem? Is that
I definitely need, like,
you
pointed
were so
questions.
disinterested in us in talking about what we do with knife control concepts and things like
Hunting,
that. The second we start talking about Pomeranians, cats, and hunting, that's where
gotta-
that was the problem.
Have to
he needs
pique
to
my
start a hunting
interest.
podcast. Like,
Yeah. So somehow we need to associate that. So we need to go boar hunting, but only with a knife, and
They
somehow
do
tie
in
that back.
places
in.
in
I
North
know.
Carolina, yeah.
Yeah.
There's
So-
someone recently who, like, their YouTube challenge was to get something with a throwing knife.
Oh
He
man.
had like Bowie throwing knife, like a
Yeah.
huge one. He got a pig with it.
I'm telling you, man, that Ninja Jess dude that I follow on Instagram, that dude
Oh,
could
yeah.
murk the hell out of a pig with one.
I think that dude
Dude's
needs-
wild.
I think
He's
they should
kicking
run-
him the other day. Threw one up, a throwing knife up, and like side kicked it, and it stuck into it. And I was like, "You gotta be kidding me, man!"
I want to
That's
see him
like-
do it into
How many
ballistic
tries
gel.
does it take?
Dude, I don't know, man, because
Yeah.
he hides one in his hair. He's got long hair. He hides one in his hair, and he's always like, and like throws it. And he has tons of videos doing it. So even if he
Yeah.
takes like, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
it's not complete luck. The dude's figuring it out, and that's like that's the guy I'm worried about. I'm not worried about. Well, I am worried about the crackhead with a knife, but I don't. We always joke around about like you're not, running away from knives. It's like that dude's gonna murk you. And it's gonna be a video of him. You're running away, and he whips his hair, and then you just take one in the back, and yeah, oh my god.
Pretty sick way to go out.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if, of all the ways, yeah.
Kill
sure.
cam on that would be sick. It's like, whoa! How the fuck did you do that?
As you're dying, he walks up. You're like, that was awesome. Oh, that was so cool. Thank you.
Nice one.
That's
Has
one
he's
way to go,
teabagging
yeah.
you, and you're
It's been
just
an
like,
honor.
Jesus.
dickhead.
Oh Lord.
Been an honor.
Well, I haven't smoked a squirrel in a while, me personally, but
We can get you out in the fall.
Rather easy. Like, so
Yeah.
they're everywhere.
Well, it's like
until you want to hunt them,
And then they're gone.
nowhere to be found.
And they're fucking ninjas, and they're the most intelligent mammal I've ever experienced.
I think they have to be. Good God.
When you're hunting for deer, all you see is squirrels, and then when you're hunting for
Squirrels,
squirrels,
all you see is deer.
all you see is deer, or you don't see anything at all.
Or a coyote, and then you're like, all right, great. There's fucking
I see we've got coyotes running around the neighborhood, like picking up small animals and stuff. That's the stuff
Really?
I'm like, I'll go out there and
There's no close season on those. You can get them. They're a nuisance,
all day, any day.
Yep.
especially
Bit of a small residential area. I got to catch them in the little wooded patch by my house, or
get
else
some night vision.
Suppress 300 blackout or something.
That's
I'm
what the
just
blow
sitting up
dart.
on the roof. Yeah.
That's a blow dart gun. That's
Well, I mean,
perfect.
I'm right across from that wooded patch, man. I could just sit up on the roof,
Hit,
put my
you sit
nods
in the
on.
tube slide. Just,
Yeah.
That'd be perfect.
Silence 22.
I had this old,
Press 300 blackout.
it's like a converted Civil War gun into a rimfire 22, and it has like the thickest octagonal barrel on it, and it's long, so it gets fucking silent. So that'd be the gun to do it with.
Yeah.
So if you ever need to borrow it,
I think there's a guy doing Civil War reenactments in the woods. No. He's just hunting coyotes. It's fine.
fair enough.
Yeah, don't worry about him.
Out there in patrols with your, blue uniform.
Is this
Yeah,
where
it'd
you
be
thought
blue.
this podcast was going to go tonight?
No. It's all in the script here. Talk about killing squirrels.
That's exactly
yeah.
where we were going with it.
Where
Yeah,
do you,
we're
where does
we're
the
on track.
bloodlust come from? You know, like where's
All you think about all day is violence, right?
it's kind of like Dexter, you know? Like, I'm going after
You
it.
gotta
I'm not thinking
Satisfied.
about,
I'm going after the bad squirrels.
yeah, the bad squirrels or the bad deer.
Yeah.
What are the qualifications?
I make them up here on the spot. I make a backstory on the
Self-justified.
fly.
Yeah.
Like, this guy needs to die.
All right.
Could go political
Yeah.
there, but we're
Well, a lot of places.
Just
start
make up
flashing
random
back to the
things.
entire Dexter
Just make up
season.
random bad people in your head and go after them online.
That's the what's his name? The DA in Dexter that then decides like he justifies killing everybody.
Yeah.
I can't remember who that is though. Just Jimmy Smits, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, plays him. Anyway, that's the path you're gonna end up going.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if I kill this defense attorney and she stops defending all of these bad guys stay in prison. Makes total sense.
He has light psychopathy.
Just a titch.
It's like just a little
Psycho
paintbrush.
light.
A little paintbrush of it.
Oh shit.
Yeah, we're here
Yep.
for
we
2
are here.
days. KCC 1
Very excited.
starts tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's your day.
Yes, day one. I do the stand-up stuff. Yeah, I'm the wrestling guy, and I'm Aaron Genetti. Nice to meet y'all.
What have you?
The best is to watch anytime, like watch the media / producer on the backside of it, and they're just going like, "The fuck are we doing here? What is going on? How am I supposed to track this in any way, shape, or form to actually?"
So we're supposed to put tags on
Yeah.
each one of these? No.
So
We are 22 minutes in.
Yeah.
We're just now getting into your.
I'm pumped about it. But when it actually gets on YouTube, it's gonna be like, so my name's Mike Chaney. I'm a first degree black belt in, and then it's gonna transition over, and I'm Aaron Genetti.
Cutting
I'm
out.
long form.
It's like, that got sliced
In
on
and
the
out,
production
22
floor.
minutes. Yeah.
And they're like, remember when we told you to talk more? Don't talk.
Yeah. This is why.
Mike needs to talk less.
Yeah.
Okay, so 22 minutes in. So I'm Aaron Genetti. I am another 1/3 of Knife Control Concepts. I'm a secondary black belt in Krav Maga under the Fit to Fight program. I'm a first degree black belt at USKMA. I've gotten diplomas from Wingate in Israel, and I've trained with a bunch of Krav Maga ones. I've done everything at this point. I just got my black belt in Jiu-Jitsu last month. Yeah, last month.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate it. But I've got, I've been coaching for 18 years in boxing, kickboxing. I've done several rank tests in Balintawak Ali. I've done firearms. God knows how long. Combatives, taken a bunch of courses that way. So it's pretty much been my life. I dropped out of landscape architecture to pursue just learning how to fight and teach people how to fight for a living at the Ohio State University. But yeah, so I've got 2 awesome kids and a wonderful wife, and I run Endeavor Defense Fitness in Ohio. And I do not currently hunt squirrels, but I'm pretty sure I could just head out in the backyard and choke a couple of them. But my wife might be pissed about that. She's got them named and shit, so that would be pretty difficult. Yeah. If she doesn't see Bob show up for his morning snack, she's gonna be a little
Strangling
suspicious.
Ed
Yeah.
is frowned upon.
Yeah, it'd be pretty bad, but yeah, man, I'm pumped. I'll keep mine short. That's it. I fight people, and I teach fighting, and I train fighting, and I try to get better at it every day in all aspects of
That's
it.
about what I say
I've trained
normally.
dumb shit and good shit. I think that's the specialty point. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard you have a sword class going on at your
We do.
gym.
We do. Now, I have not partaken as much in that, although I did jump into like 10 minutes the other day with Joe. But he's fascinating, man. He's got a deep Aikido background. And then, do you remember how to say it? The TSYR? Anyway, it's
Probably
a
not.
crazy long
I
Japanese
can, but no.
word for systems, so, whatever. But it's like feudal Japanese samurai style training. It's pretty wild to watch him fight. But
It's cool.
he has done Krav for a long time. He's done Jiu-Jitsu for a long time. He's blue belt in Jiu-Jitsu. So he's fascinating.
Nice,
Fascinating
yeah.
to train with, but also fascinating to talk martial arts with, because I've actually learned a ton. That's the thing. Like, everybody dogs on like old school Eastern martial arts and a lot of codified type stuff, but there's gems in that stuff. You just kind of have to sift through it a little bit sometimes.
think
But
I
Joe's
do.
nice because Joe can distill it down. So Joe
Yeah.
will come in and be like, I mean, realistically, that's garbage. But
Yeah.
this and this and this are pretty solid. So.
Yeah,
And
I
he
joke that I
trains
spent
other
10
stuff.
years of my life accumulating 1 or 2 valuable techniques from it.
100%.
So,
100%.
yeah.
Yeah.
He trains other stuff, so he has context for like this is deep martial arts, like
Yeah.
deep
Yeah,
level
yeah.
martial arts.
But when
Like, this is
shit hits the
practical.
fan and people are walking around with hatchets, he's gonna be walking around with legit samurai swords, and he's gonna be pretty good at it. And that is terrifying to a certain degree. But yeah, so yeah, we got a bunch of stuff at the gym. I mean, we screw around Kali every now and again and things like that. But I mean, for the most part, we just like fighting. I mean, we used to do. I was telling Rodney, we need to start doing combat sambo again. We used to do that for fun. Right, for fun. That's how we pass time. Yeah. Put on a gi top, gloves, and shin guards.
Like,
Just
headbutts
beat the
today?
shit out of each other. Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah,
fighting,
those are legit.
fighting. I played drums in a band for a long time. That was fun. Yeah, there you go.
Cool.
Mine was shorter. I kept it to like 6 minutes. Not even.
That was actually pretty much.
Yeah, you're welcome. See?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, feed the demon. Always take care of the producer because they're the one at the end of the day that's either going to make you look good or bad.
We're gonna cut just this clip.
Yeah,
of you
that's
talking,
it.
Yeah.
100%.
Mike's only thing is like braining squirrels. Like the only thing that he has.
It's a
on the
side episode.
podcast.
It's actually that could be a Patreon episode.
Yeah.
I don't know if you
there
guys have
go.
it yet.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah. But
There's
that
your
could
first
really be
episode.
like in depth. Actually, if I could have that 22 minutes to put as a YouTube video on our page, just get to know Mike Cheney.
Get to the KCC.
That's funny.
This is the rundown.
Yeah. So, what did you want to talk about?
This is fine with me. Like, if we want to turn this into a hunting podcast, I can do that too. But I'll do my intro, I guess. I'm David. I own Katalyst Krav Maga here. Krav Maga background, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, done a little bit of Muay Thai, 4th degree karate, stuff like that. Been training since I was 15 years old. So
Can you crane kick?
I could, yes. I could also spin hook kick.
Nunchucks?
I can do a little bit of nunchucks.
Did you when you were going through Krav, did you have to do spin hook kicks and stuff like that?
No.
I did. We did like the original. My first black belt test, we had to do spinning
sorry.
slap kicks, spinning hook kicks. We had to do like the not Kiss of the Dragon. What's the dragon tail? Like the low sweep from like Mortal Kombat.
Oh, really?
Hell yeah, dude! I had to do, and I was good at that shit, man. We had to do like jump kicks and a bunch of other crazy stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. So when you said like, oh, I can do this, like that, I had to do that for Krav.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And what's funny about that, going back to like Eli's comment about finding the people that are like actually good to get good at it, is I actually went to a really good Taekwondo instructor to get good at the kicks to pass my black belt test. Not just to pass my black belt test, because everybody else is like half-assing it. It's like, it's Krav. We don't have to be good at this. And I was like, I have to be the best at everything we do. So, but yeah, man, I went to a TKD guy to get really good at my kicks. But yeah, man, we had to do spin hook kicks, spin heel kicks, spin outside and inside slap kicks. We had to do the dragon sweep. We had to do like jump kicks, jump back kicks, tons of stuff. Yeah. Shit was wild. Yeah. That was my first black belt test. Yeah. And then I learned how to wrestle, and then I was like, oh, okay. I guess I don't have to do that if I just learn how to wrestle. Like an uppercut and a double leg goes a long way.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I can't do any of that shit anymore, by the way. I'm old as hell now.
No, me neither.
I do it and pull a hamstring.
It's a young man's game.
It really is, man. There's some pictures of me doing like high kicks on 6-foot dudes. And I'm like, I could kick that guy in the liver now. Probably have a solid shot on that, yeah.
Kick him in the groin and then kick him in the face.
Anyway, I cut you off. I just got so excited. I was like, oh, maybe, because you've been in Krav for a while.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, maybe he's done weird shit, but
No,
the
no,
OG days.
it wasn't that weird. Because I think it's because I avoided a lot of the main affiliations. So I wasn't a part
When
of
did you
like
start Krav?
worldwide. About 10 years ago.
okay. Yeah, when I started in 08, you had literally 3 choices. You either, mostly Krav Maga worldwide, you had access to IKMF,
Yeah.
which at the time, that's where El Yanala was, or you were in New York with David Kahn, but it was like specifically in New York. He wasn't really, like, he didn't have a lot of, I'm pretty sure he was in New York, but that was it. So it's like, if you were doing Krav Maga, you were 90% of the time you were doing Krav Maga worldwide. Yeah. And I always used to joke that it was like, they got to level 3 and they were like, well, we solved all the problems, but we need more money. So let's create 2 more levels of curriculum. You know what's going to be good? Spin kicks and grenade defense, because we definitely need more of that in the United States.
I have
You never
seen that
know
in
when you're,
manuals.
dude. I have videos. I did the USKMA instructor DVDs. Like, I was the guy that ran them, and I can show you. I have videos of me teaching grenade defense. Fucking wild. Yeah. I can still do that shit. That shit was legit. Wrist, take them down in a Cavalier.
Yep, Cavalier disarm,
Yeah.
roll it under them, and
roll
then
it under them, and then you run and you dive. Keep your butt, get low, and get your butt towards them.
April Fool's is coming up. You can be like, guys, this week we're working on grenade defenses.
I can dig up. I have copies of those DVDs, man. I'll
run
find
that
some.
in classes
I'll find
the
some more
entire
videos.
time,
Yeah.
You know, like you use like lacrosse balls. As
Yeah.
Or we'll get some Clanton grenades.
Oh my gosh, does he have grenades? Because if he doesn't, I need him to make a mold of grenades.
I
Yeah.
have a grenade paperweight if that would work.
100%. 100%. Actually, like, we should film that video while we're here.
Yeah, I agree.
It's literally just be like, all right, guys, we're going to talk about a topic that often comes up in knife defense, and it's actually grenades. Because most people that carry a knife have also a grenade. It's turned into some type of like a Gary Busey situation, like
Absolutely.
from Tommy Boy.
No. We should totally run this.
Anyway, sorry.
I have some lacrosse balls here, so
100%. Yeah.
So we can run that.
I'm so down for that.
Totally do that.
Shake off my grenade defense. It's been a while.
Why?
Yeah, no, that was my joke.
Why
with,
has
like,
it been a while?
with like crop too?
I avoid grenades is what it is.
Yeah. I avoid areas where they might be deployed.
So you're saying
That's
you
the
should,
hilltop. I stay away from the hilltop. That's where all the grenades are in Columbus.
you should just run from grenades.
Yeah, it's a crazy idea, right? Actually, just shoot them is really, the way that it
grenade
is.
in their hand.
Shoot the grenade in their hand. It'll blow up. It's very Chuck Norris-like. Yeah. But,
Stay away from Ukraine. Like,
man.
I had a friend who was over there for 6 months, and so he's coming back
Ukraine?
now. Yeah, so like he did medic stuff over there.
Yeah, that shit's wild, man.
Yeah. Hey, he met his wife over there.
No shit?
So yeah. So
During this last 6 months?
yeah. Well, I don't think he's married. I think he's bringing.
I was going to say, like, that's
to
a
bring her back
fast
first.
courtship. Yeah, fair enough.
Well, as an American guy in Ukraine, I think you have a
Oh,
lot
that's
of
valid. Yeah, some pretty good
so
options.
you have a lot of status. I think.
Yeah, some pretty good options, yeah.
It's wartime. It's
Yeah.
stressful, So
Yeah. That's like the Israeli birthright thing.
Yeah.
It's like, let's get as many Americans over here because they might have money. Solid chance. And I remember I was like, I technically qualified for it. I was like, you are barking up the wrong tree. There is no finances coming from this family. You don't want to marry me off to one of them. But, oh, man. Anyway, so yeah. Krav Maga. Woohoo.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you guys teach knife control concepts. Do you have a brief rundown of like what that's about, what it focuses on?
Yeah. So KCC started officially like as a program. I started filming the stand-up stuff at the time. It was just I had like a 30-day stand-up curriculum. And it actually started, the idea started in like 2017, 18, because it was when you and Ward were doing the GWAC stuff. And I had put a video together because, I mean, anybody who's been around, at least in my experience, anybody who's been around knife defense long enough starts to realize that it's all terrible. Like there's no great answer to any of it, right? But the problem is, in a lot of cases, most of the martial arts try to systematize it and frame it in a way that's like, this is how you defend the knife. And they're very frank about it. And Krav Maga was the same way. It was like outside defense and counter, redirect, control, attack, takeaway, and all the acronyms of everything, right? Like RCAT. And it's like, all right, that's all fine and dandy, but it never looks like that. So I never felt good about knife defense. Never.
Yeah.
And there was probably a time where I was a little cockier as a younger instructor where I was like, let me go teach a knife defense seminar and I got this because I could demo it really well. But the second you took the rails off of it, I can actually explicitly remember the moment I realized that everything we were teaching, the way we were teaching it, not everything we were teaching, but the way we were teaching it was garbage. And it was in my level 4 test for Krav Maga. And it wasn't even a knife, but the John Burton, who's a big dude, was my attacker. And all he did was like post and frame, just your standard 90-degree frame across the chest, and hold the gun back away from me. And I like could not get it. And I just remember being like, where the fuck's the technique for this? Like, and it was just like, and I had this moment that was like, oh yeah, like we're missing something. But anyway, so knife defense always just terrified me. And I never liked really what we were doing.
Yeah.
And so I started kind of exploring that a little bit more. And after this, we'd already gotten into a little more stand-up wrestling, and I was getting a lot better at jiu-jitsu. At that time, I would have been a purple belt, right? Because I would have been like 18 or something like that. So I was purple belt in jiu-jitsu. I've been doing a lot more wrestling. We were teaching a lot more stand-up wrestling in our Krav Maga program.
Yeah.
And so I started looking at it, and I was like, well, the worst part of the situation is if you're stuck in the entanglement. They're grabbing onto you. You're stuck grabbing onto them. You can't run away, whatever that is. And so I had filmed this video and put it online. It was essentially like, if I were to redo knife defense, I would teach dealing with the entanglement first. So stick them in the entanglement, get good at understanding how to survive that, how to manage it, monitor it. And then I would talk about entries and striking, and then I would talk about de-escalation and all the other type of stuff. So I would actually reverse engineer it, where most systems, at least the way that I was taught and the experience I was given, was it was always started from here and worked its way in. I was like, I think I would do it from this way out. But at the time, it was just a theory. And I was working with a third-party protection group. I was teaching their guys. I had them 4 hours a month. And we had to do a lot of stuff hands-on and a lot of stuff against knives and guns because that's what they were worried about. If the person they're protecting is giving a speech in front of 5,000 people, they can't just start popping rounds off into a crowd, right? So if a weapon comes out, they're going to have to get hands-on. So anyway, long story short, I had them 4 hours a month, and anybody who knows training 4 hours a month is nothing because they wouldn't train. And then the next month I would get them, and it was like starting from new again. And it was like crap. So I was trying to figure out ways to get them into that. So I started creating flow drills, and I started trying to get them to train for 5 minutes, and it worked. It actually worked really well.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, maybe that thing I was talking about for knife defense works. So I came up with an idea of a 30-day online course, and I grabbed Mike, and he didn't even know what the hell we were doing at the time. And I'd be like, hey, I got to film like 10 videos today. And he'd be like, sure. And, he's like, stab me with a knife. Anyway, so I developed the system around chain wrestling for stand-up about how to survive the entanglement. I turned it into a 30-day curriculum for an online program. And it went really well. And then we did a live version of it right after COVID. It was like July of 2020. And at the time, Eli Knight was doing Bladed Grappler, which is really fun. So if you ever want to embarrass him, ask him about Bladed Grappler. But he was doing Bladed Grappler, which was actually pretty cool because it was like trying to address the knife on the ground. So I asked him, I said, hey, why don't you come up to Ohio? I'll teach KCC, which was only stand-up at the time, and you teach Bladed Grappler the next day. So we did a 2-day seminar. Thankfully, Mike was there. And then we all started, I think we went out for drinks afterwards, and we were just hashing out what would that look like? So then soon after that, the three of us got together, and I was like, well, look, these theories and concepts I have for stand-up, I imagine they apply to the ground, but you guys are way more knowledgeable on the ground stuff. Yeah. And so they started hashing out the curriculum, and I kind of just played devil's advocate in the back. And really the way I looked at it was to make sure that, one, it was more self-defense based. We didn't get too sporty. And two, we kept in mind that the idea of the program is it's got to be the 120-pound female all the way up to the 50-year-old dude that's 60 pounds overweight. It's got to work. So it can't be you can't be doing X-guard and doing barambolas and stuff. So they created the ground program for it. And then, believe it or not, Virginia Beach is actually the first time that we did a road show for KCC. Mm-hmm. So long story short, the way KCC works is in KCC 1, we refer to it as Foundations of Control. We stick you in what we refer to as the gray area, in between entry and exit. I don't know how the knife got into play, but it's already in play. And I don't know how I'm going to leave just yet because I'm not allowed to leave. So we force you to stay in the entanglement longer than you should ever stay in the entanglement, to work common positions, work common angles, understand pressure, start to get people to start to realize, most people when they talk about self-defense in general, but definitely knife defense, they understand the ideology of you're either 100% committed to the defense or you're 100% committed to running away. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty common thought. But the problem is knives are scary and they make people want to get away from you. Like Craig always says, knives are space makers. So we spend a ton of time teaching people how important it is to not be like this if you decide to go in, how to give pressure and move into that.
Yeah.
So in the level 1 system for KCC, we've essentially boiled down the most common positions and concepts for dealing with a stand-up entanglement and dealing with a ground entanglement. We use snap downs and very simple dumps. We refer to them as just basic low-risk takedowns.
Yeah.
We use those to transition from standing to the ground in control, and then look at hand switches to make sure, not necessarily, hand switches do happen and we should get good at them, but more importantly, to teach people how to be ambidextrous in the way they fight.
Yeah.
So understand how to work the right side and the left side of the body. So that's KCC 1, and that's how it started. And then, you start treating that system and people realize oh, this is really good training. But what about a free hand, swinging blade, and what about this and what about that? So then that's what then developed the curriculum for KCC 2 is we started to answer all the what ifs and start to walk the system out. So in KCC 2, that's what we started addressing.
Well, this is one of the things that I've been really toying with in my classes, which is starting from sucky positions, but I kind of rephrase them as positions of low variability. So there's less variables when you're already hands-on with a knife. You don't have as many decisions to make. So it's you can kind of free mental space to really focus on this bad problem. For instance, we did grappling last week, and we worked pins. Mm-hmm. And we started from mount and just got people to get hands off the throat and hip bridge to place hands on the mat.
Yeah.
So it's a position of low variability. They're not allowed to leave mount. So, and all they have to focus on is hip drive and getting people's hands off of them and onto a mat.
Yeah.
And so it's so when you look at that kind of stuff, starting inside the clinch, it's kind of the same thing and working your way backwards, because when you're out and the knife is free swinging, there's so many options that I could put into play that it can be confusing to a beginner, I think, to understand what I need to do from there.
Well, you're isolating one piece of the picture, right?
Correct. Yep.
So
exactly.
if you take a ShivWorks, like an edged weapons overview, it's exactly that, right? It's like it's full spectrum. It's from before the fight ever happens all the way to dealing with the entanglement, all the way to using the knife and all that type of stuff. So it's very wide. Versus like we're going to spend 12 hours, and like you're saying, like you're not allowed to leave. Like tomorrow we'll start, we'll do hand fighting and head position drills first and foremost. But when we start getting into positions, it's like you're in a baseball bat grip, frontside 2-on-1, and you're not allowed to leave.
Yeah.
Because the only way to get good at, which is not a great position necessarily, a baseball bat grip and frontside 2-on-1, but the only way to get good at it is to do it.
Yeah.
A lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of places, jiu-jitsu included, but anything, right, is kind of like, well, you don't want to end up there. So let's figure out how to not get there. We're kind of the opposite. We're like, you don't want to end up there, so let's go there. Let's spend a ton of time there so that if you do end up there, you have the competence, not just confidence, but the actual ability to get out of the position to move and advance that. And that, for a lot of people is incredibly uncomfortable. Yeah. But once you figure that out, like if you can get good or, again, competent, I think, and increase your ability, your effectiveness, efficiency, anything in those cases in dealing with being stuck in the entanglement to the point where you actually have a level of confidence there, then the rest of it, like if I don't, hit my block it right, or I don't hit my strike right, or I'm unable to de-escalate it and just stop the situation, now you have confidence in the ability to deal with whatever happens next. Versus if we start out, like you're saying, it's like, well, now the variables are I've got to use my words. I have to be paying attention to my surroundings. I've got to know my footwork. What are my blocks? What are my strikes? Is it overhand? Is it underhand? Is it all this type of stuff? And then you have the entanglement bossed on top of that. And then technically you have medical training bossed on top of that, because if you do get stabbed, you got to deal with that as well. And that's the holistic picture of it. That's a lot to take on. So we always refer to it as, or I guess I do primarily, I always refer to it as like buckets. You have buckets of training. Yeah. And like this is a specific bucket. So like what you're talking about is fantastic. It's like you're mounted. The only thing I want you to try to figure out how to do is how to get their hands to touch the floor, and like figure out how to make that happen. Generally by using these probably 2 or 3 options, but you're forcing people to actually get reps on it versus saying like, oh, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and everything that goes with it, which never works.
Yeah. No.
I mean, it doesn't even work in a jiu-jitsu concept, right? Or context, which is like, okay, here's armbar from mount.
It works, but there's a massive gap between having it happen live.
Yes.
Like,
Right. Like here's armbar from mount. Yeah. Now go try to armbar from mount that even that 4-stripe white belt who knows not to extend his arms now because he's at least gotten 4 stripes on his belt, and it's like, well, now I've got it. Now you have to be
that's why the
7
new guy
layers ahead.
Like everyone like jumps on the new guy when he comes in because they're like, finally somebody to like test all this stuff on that I haven't been able to get.
We try to stop that. We try to go like, go roll with the purple belt. He's fine not trying to murder you right now. Yeah. But that was. Did I tell you Larry, the massage therapist, was like, hey man, I went to try out the gym in Toledo, and then he was like, man, he goes, the colored belts were awesome. He goes, but the white belts, and I was like, yeah, that's
pretty typical.
Yeah, that's a thing.
That's pretty
There's not many people. They're used to getting smashed by the colored belts, and you're the new guy. Yeah, so it's like you just stay away from them for a little while. Yeah, just find you some colored belts. Yeah,
that's I think one of the things with KCC1 that. Once people go through the course, they understand. But like the whole first course is basically constrained. Where like you're not allowed to go yet. Yep. Like the whole course is, and then it has a certain amount of like invariants that don't change that much. They might a little bit. Like, but
it builds the same thing. And because of that, it builds a massive amount of repetition. In a very specific skill set. I think one of the most impressive things about it is like. Taking people on both sides, I think, at least to me, and this is just my, I guess, observation with it, but we'll have, in the same course, Connecticut was actually a really good example of this out at Rob Mago's place. And Rob Mago is an absolutely incredible coach and knowledge base. I mean, the stuff he does is amazing, but he runs, Manchester Jiu-Jitsu. And, but out at his place, we had a person that had never trained fighting ever. And on the same exact mats we had 6 more than first-degree black belts. So at a minimum, like the lowest level black belt in jiu-jitsu was a first-degree black belt on the mats, right? Including Rob, who I don't know, I think he's like a 3rd or a 4th at this point. I mean, he's been around the block for a while. But, and both of them, the person that had never trained before was able to grasp the concepts on the ground and apply them incredibly, like, proficient for, 6 hours of ground.
Yeah.
And then the black belts, like Joey Carta is the one that I always go back to. Like, he grabbed us afterwards, and Rob Mago again is another one where he's just like, dude, the way they're applying the ground concepts in like really shutting down, like, these are the things you want to do because you have a jiu-jitsu background. Don't do those things. Do these things instead. Is like just incredibly more efficient. It's way more effective, and it's the way it goes into it. And so you literally, like, I think one of the most fascinating things about it is we're giving people enough time against actual pressure and energy, because there's energy. They're not just laying there on the floor, but the concepts, especially in the ground. I mean, the stand-up stuff is there as well, but especially on the ground, because the ground's usually where people have the most problems. Like the way they built the ground curriculum in the KCC program for KCC1 specifically, it's like you're taking guys that have 20 years of experience and making them go, oh shit, I need to kind of change the way I'm approaching top pressure control and movement. And you're taking somebody that's like, I don't even know what the floor is, and all of a sudden they're smashing people. You know what I mean? And that's just like, to me, that's so cool. Yeah. And it speaks to, putting some constraints on it and understanding the concept and letting them get reps in and putting them into those positions that forces them to get good at it. It's fascinating stuff.
Yeah. And like, I've really seen like a reductionist approach, like work far better than 20,000 options and 20-step things, and
we're both thinking the same thing.
The first workshop we did at Endeavor, like, to do all of it, we did everything in like a day.
And when we say everything, we're talking everything that is currently in KCC1, KCC2, and shit that's not even, we all took out completely at this point. And it was like, and we crammed that into like 2. I think we went a little longer that time though. Yeah. It actually might have been shorter. It might have been 5 hours. I don't know. But it was like, and then we took a bunch out when we came to Virginia Beach at Scotty Oates' place, and we took more out. And even then it was still like, we got to take more out. And it's just like, it's a constant shaving down of like, what's actually necessary, and what am I just adding to add, or what am I adding because I like it, versus what is the actual foundation of learning how to deal with this. For everybody across the board, doesn't matter your background. And we're still constantly improving. I mean, so him and I, in January, we taught a level 1 end user course in Minnesota, and then we taught a 4-day, essentially level 1, level 2 for law enforcement, specifically in Maryland. And then I was just in Seattle last weekend with Eli teaching a level 1 end user course, and I taught differently, not a lot, but I'm moving things around because we're constantly refining. So I taught a different order in Seattle than even we just did in January when we were in Minnesota. And it's that constant evolution of, is this drill necessary? Do we need to add something? Do we need to take something away? What's the order that gets the most proficiency out of it? And that's been a growing experience for everything. I mean, every time they, because I get to travel around all of them and I get to watch both of them teach. And every time they finish day 2, I'm like, you never said that before. And they're like, I was just thinking about it differently. And it's like, it's so cool. Like, it's really fascinating, man. It's a learning process for all of us.
When you did so many reps teaching too, like, because that's what you do, like, you know, and you start to see patterns, and you've been teaching. I've been teaching now for 12 years, and you start to see patterns, and and it's those guys in class who think that they can help students and instruct, that give them all the information, and it's like, and they're giving them like, oh well, you need to do this, and I'm like, no, calm down. Let them drill. They need to drill this. They don't need 100%. You to talk to them, So and like that's a beginner instructor 100%.
Every one of us.
Yeah, it's like.
Do you remember the first class you taught?
Oh, probably. Yeah. No,
I came back from LA, Phase A at Krav Maga Worldwide, because the first thing I ever taught was Krav Maga, and I came back from Phase A, and I was like, I am the man. I know everything, you know nothing, and I need to tell all of you everything that I know. And I remember I came back, and the very first thing that Mark's like, was, first off, Mark wouldn't let us teach the first week back. He was like, you have to come back. You're not allowed to teach the first week, because when you go to, like, back in the day, at least for Worldwide, Phase A was just they were trying to make you quit. Like they would tout the fact that they would fail 70% of people that would show up for this I think it was 5 days of training. And I mean, it was just abuse. And I loved it. I was like 21. I was completely athletic, and I broke my ankle on the test, and I was like, this is so cool. They gave me a magic pill. I swear to God, it wasn't, they were like, here's, like a painkiller out of a thing. And I was like, it didn't have any markings on it. And I took it, and I didn't feel my leg anymore. And I finished the test. I was like, I don't know what that magic pill was, but it worked. But he wouldn't let you coach the first week back. He goes, because you're going to be so beat to hell, and you're going to want to take that out on every single person in the gym. And like, I got back, and I was like, yeah. And he was like, you're not allowed to coach. And I was like, why? And he's like, because you will murder people. I've seen it. I've put 11 people through this course. And sure as shit, like I got back, and I was like, I'm going to kill everybody. And then like, it was like 5 days in, I was like, okay, maybe I don't need to kill them. But I did. I remember I taught like eye gouges that day or some shit. I went out and bought fucking grapefruits, cut that shit in half, had a fucking eye gouge and grapefruits. And I'm talking about all the details from everything. And I just remember like at the end of it, everybody was just like, yeah, the grapefruits are cool. And I was like, did you not hear anything I said? In the back of my mind, I was like, I talked way too fucking much. Like I was just telling them, like, I was like, all they wanted to do was fucking eye gouge grapefruits and knee each other in the face. It's like, okay. But I mean, you're right. You're 100% right. It's like every new coach. It's like, let me tell you everything that I know because you don't know it. It's like, they don't need to know that. They don't need to know 90% of what you know as a coach. They need to be able to throw a really good punch. They need to know how to take a punch. They need to know how to wrestle a little bit. Like, yeah. But that's a hard lesson to learn, man. Like, it is a hard lesson.
It is. Yep. Yeah. When I first started coaching, I had a pretty bad stammer actually, and so it actually penalized me for talking more. So I would try to talk less to avoid it. And so it's pretty interesting. So like, 'cause I had a much worse stammer, and I've actually gotten over it as I've talked more in front of people.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it actually kind of cut down like my coaching.
Yeah.
And made me coach in small snippets.
That's wow. That's really cool.
So I think I learned that lesson earlier, but just by
but with different circumstances,
just by constraints on like my ability to speak.
You had like a different, I don't call it a punishment, but there's just like that stimulus, like the risk to reward type deal out of it.
Yep.
Have you ever overtalked? And I'm not saying this facetiously, but I can't remember. Like, when did you? Because you were coaching before you came to Endeavor.
Yeah. I was never a monologuer. It always pissed me off. So like, it's kind of always been that way. I was like, all right, we're doing this thing. You don't need to know why I know it and when I learned it.
See, he learned that shit early.
And then like when people are I was like, just tell me the fucking information. They're like, I learned this in '96 and blah.
This dude.
I don't care where you learned it. Teach me how to do it.
I'm like, is it gonna work? Teach it to me and shut up.
See, that's interesting too, because like Mikey and I met, he was already a purple belt. Yeah, you were already a purple belt when you came over. Yeah, so he was already a purple belt. He'd already been coaching, and so like I didn't get to see him like come up through some of that stuff. But like, I had major inferiority complex. Like I had major imposter syndrome, and that's how I would make up for it, was by trying to act and talk smarter than everybody in the room. And even so much so, like my imposter syndrome was so bad when I first started that I still have it. I stopped filling it out forever ago, but I kept a teaching resume. And like every test I took, every class I took, every person I taught a class for, I would track it, because in my mind I was like, well, if anybody ever asks me if I know anything, I have a written documentation of it. Yeah. And I don't remember when I stopped filling that thing out, but I mean, like, it was like I put everything on there, and it was, I don't know if it was more for me, because I don't think I I might have sent it out maybe once or twice, but I was like, I had to. And so for me, it was like I've always been a small guy. You know what I mean? I started really young. Like I started coaching full time when I was 21. Yeah. You know, and if you think about Krav Maga gyms, at least, you know, when I was teaching early on, it's like the demographics, like kind of mid 30s to mid 40s. Mm-hmm. And so like, I always felt like the young guy, you know what I mean? Like one of those, and like, there's no way they respect me. You know, so I was like, all these stories were in my fucking head. Yeah. But yeah, that was, so I would just talk, and I had to like, I know everything. And then like you start learning, it's like, dude, just chill out, man. Like, it's like, you're fine.
Do you think Krav attracts that?
What, that age group, or?
No, that kind of mindset.
No, because we see it in everything. I see it in my, we've recently de-affiliated, but I was a CrossFit affiliate owner for 18 years. And I see it in there too. Like where they're, again, it's you're going in. I just think it's just early on, I think that's what people imagine coaching is. Because if you think about like most people's experience at that point, from whether it's somebody at your job trying to pass off their job to you or educate you on how to do a job, or what you learned in college where you just sit there and listen to a professor talk, or like coaches go. It's like I imagine this is what it is, but it's a piece of it is just like, well, that's what coaching is, and I'm supposed to coach. So if I'm not saying things, are they getting their money's worth? Am I good? Do they think I'm a good coach and all that? But then you really start realizing pretty quickly, like, people learn through action. It's okay. They're not going to freaking die unless you are telling them, hey, we're going to practice back body suplexes, and whatever you do, don't fall break, you know what I mean? Like, or whatever, like unless you're doing something explicitly dangerous. But I think a big piece of that in any coaching aspect, any teaching aspect, I can only imagine. I mean, I've never taught, as an actual teacher, like in a school, like education setting, but I can imagine like thinking back to like TAs in college, and or like not substitute teachers, but like when you would have in high school and middle school and things like that, like you'd have the student teacher come in and run in that. Like, I can only imagine it's got to be very similar. You know what I mean? It's got to be like, I'm in front of this group, I've got to do that. But I've seen that in people giving presentations and lectures. I've seen that in jiu-jitsu. I've seen it in Krav Maga. So I don't think it's a Krav Maga thing at all. I think it's a coaching thing. It's a new coaching. You just want to, you're making up for your lack of comfort by filling space with words.
I think there's a sweet spot between like, go do it because I said so, and then the monologue.
That's the other side of the coin.
And it's like, well, why? It's like, 'cause that's how we always have done it. And it's like, oh fuck. Darn.
But I think that's the sweet spot for coaching is like, let's say the analogy I would give is like, okay, as a coach, I know 1,000 things about this topic, but I'm only going to coach 10 of them. And the other 990 are for the questions. So if you ask me a question, I have those other 990 things that I can pull from, but realistically, you don't need them unless it's very specific to your context. But to be a good coach, if you only know those 10 things, that's going to limit your ability to, in more cases, help people kind of find like the sinew between spaces, the gaps in between spaces. But I also think it's a trust thing too, to get buy-in from students, because for instance, the first, from a KCC standpoint, the first law enforcement training we ever did was for the Department of Corrections in Florida. And if we go out there and, we just say, hey, this is the thing that we're going to do, and somebody asks a question about it, and I'm like, we do it this way. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm not addressing wherever it is, then you lose buy-in. And you could have the best information in the world, but they have to trust you enough to take the information to put it into application, right? We're like, we go into law enforcement trainings. It's like, hey guys, like, I'm Aaron. This is my background. Mike, this is his background. And then like after we do our intro, we're like, we don't know anything about law enforcement. It's not my job to know anything about law enforcement. I know a bunch. I have anecdotal stories, but I've never done law enforcement. I don't know what your job is. I don't know what beat you walk. I don't know what prison you're in. So what we know we're really good at is learning how to control and contain a human, learning how to deal with these contexts, and we're going to speak to that as much as possible. And any input you have about specific context, like, we're willing to hash that out with you. But I'm not going to walk in and flex on them. And that's, again, that comes to that building comfort. But if we didn't know the other 990 things, we wouldn't realize the 990 things we don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just like that constant kind of journey. There's Kanon's like a rapper. I don't think he's got anything new, but like, I always loved his albums. But he's got a line in one of his songs that's always stuck with me. He's like, any man who knows a thing knows he knows not a damn thing at all. And it's like, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. And I think that's a huge element to that piece, which is like, I know a lot. I should know a lot of things to answer any questions that come in. But the most important thing is to realize, like, I should really only be teaching these 10 things. Yeah.
So Mike, how have you grown as a coach recently?
I mean, the past 5 or 6 years traveling with him and doing this, right? I can teach within a program fairly well. Like, that's my program, and I designed it for the most part, so I can like operate within that fairly well. Then like coming into like self-defense context with him, there's almost a whole other like language set to learn. There's a whole like even like some protocol stuff that we do have to take into consideration, like some legal stuff that coming from where I came from, sportive background entirely, none of that stuff was ever talked about. I was slamming people on their heads, but like then we get there, like, we can't slam them on their heads. So it's like we have to figure something else out. So it took, like, pure sportive skill and then started to put it into a different package.
One of my most hated sayings is that there's no rules inside of a street fight. I'm like, have you ever read self-defense law? Like, there's a lot of rules.
Until somebody drags your ass to civil court and you're $100,000 in debt because of it. Yeah. But that's the funny thing too, is because like I used to say that shit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it's like because that's the Krav Maga way, man. There's no rules. If you're not cheating, you're not trying. Do whatever it takes to get home to your family. And it's like, well, yeah, but
I also don't want to be in court afterwards.
But also, like at the gym, we've done like some of the eco stuff and the gameplay and stuff like that within programs, and I've seen a lot of return on that. So
I've been doing a lot more of that stuff here and trying to implement it to more self-defense stuff as well, and figuring out how to do that has been an interesting journey for the past year. So I kind of blend it, but but like
I don't think it's like eco or drill. You know what I mean? It's It's always a part of it. Adding resistance will always be a part of it.
Well, because drilling is like a constraint, right? Like you constrain the energy that your partner gives.
Yeah.
So down to nothing, and then you just go through it. So it's like drilling 1 or 2 times or 1 or 2 reps. It's like, well, no, that can be necessary, especially for stuff that's like higher risk, like gun disarms. When I'm teaching that, like to teach that eco is a little, it's like a little bit. It's like,
don't get shot, guys. All right?
It's like we're gonna give you an airsoft gun, blast him.
It's actually funny you say that because when I traveled around in 2015 and 16, primarily doing the active shooter response courses that I was running, I was like, all right, I got them for 4 hours, maybe 6 hours on most days, and my objective is not to teach them, but expose them to running concepts, barricading, the difference between concealment and cover, and like all that type of stuff. But then to also actually teach them medical, and they actually hands-on. Everything we do was hands-on. It was never PowerPoints, and fighting. And I was like, well, I'm not going to teach gun defenses. I'm not going to teach gun disarms because they're not going to learn that, and they're definitely not going to practice it. So literally, like I learned how to. I did at the time that nobody was talking about ecological. I don't know what the fuck that was. But in 2016, but I literally taught it apparently ecological or CLA, constraint-led approach or whatever now. But to use the fancy terms, tag that shit on YouTube. But I literally started teaching it that way. So it was really funny because I would always I would go, okay, we're gonna play a game, and it's called Don't Get Shot. And here's how it works: this person has a gun. You get to grab onto that to the weapon limb with 2 hands, in any orientation you want. And don't let them get the muzzle pointed towards you. And then I would just let them fight over the gun. And then I would go, okay, so how did that work out with hands? And we would talk about hands. And then I would go, okay, now I want to teach you about a basic concept, which is the difference between distance and control. The farther you are away from something, the less you control it. The closer you get to it, the higher likelihood you can control it. So then I would let them attach one arm with like a hook. And so you had one hand and one hook, and then figure out how that works. And I would walk them through, but it literally like that was how I taught to deal with it. And then I would start bringing around screwdrivers and hammers and training knives and different versions of guns. Like, I mean, not that they make MP5s anymore, but like we would have MP5 platforms, and then we'd have AR platforms. And but that was the drill, because it was like I don't have time to teach them disarms, which realistically, respectfully to my Krav Maga people, I don't like. The disarms are good, but teaching disarms on their own without understanding how to just simply wrestle and contain, like the more I've been around it, the more you start to realize it's pretty bad. So like to go out and go, okay, I would have, sometimes we would have, 50 people and it ages 30 to 80. And it's like the 60-year-old dude with 2 bad knees that has never fought in his life and, is coming to this active shooter course. Like if I teach him a gun to harm, that is the I'm going to build false confidence in him, and it ain't going to do shit. He's going to end up getting killed. So I would just put him in a position and be like, all right, like get a hand on the gun and then don't get shot. And they picked up on that so much faster. And it's so funny because then you fast forward, we started kind of messing around with, I guess, what's now called task-based games, hashtag Kit Dale. But at the time, like it was out of necessity.
Well, when you only have XYZ amount of time, it's like,
I'd rather you realize, 1, you can do it. 2, You're not good at it.
Yep.
And you should probably train more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like one of those things. It's like, look, it's possible,
Yeah.
but you're not good at it.
Yep.
And I'd rather you experience that and be like, oh man, the gun kept pointing back at me. It's like, it's because
Yeah.
you actually need to be athletic and fit and you need to fight a little bit. And then
Yep.
I want them to leave and go, if push comes to shove, I have an idea what I could do
Yeah.
and do it really hard and be very aggressive about it and understand the basic concept. It seems very simple, but don't let the muzzle point at you. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
But then for them to also go like, if I actually want to get good at this, I should probably go learn how to fight.
Yeah.
And if I go out in a seminar, that's what I want them to learn. Like, here's a tourniquet. It is 100% very simple to put on. And you need to practice because putting it on your, 17-year-old son that just got shot in front of you is going to be way different than putting it on statically by yourself, right?
Yep.
So, that was always our goal with that. But it was, it was out of necessity. It was like,
Yeah,
all right, we're going to spend 1 hour talking about gun defense. All right, grab onto the gun and then don't get shot. And you learn a lot that way.
Well, and I found that that's way more effective. Like that's what my advanced classes are. Is we just
Advanced classes just start becoming like, here's a scenario, don't die. And then like you're watching as a coach and you're just like, I wouldn't do that. And they're like, well, what should I do instead? Definitely not that. I would maybe do something smarter than that. You know what I mean? It's like, and then you get in a fight with them. Like I feel like a lot of advanced classes are that way. Like, I wouldn't do that.
And they're like, oh, you fucked up.
Yeah. Oh, man. Hold on. Do that again. Let me videotape it. It's going to look good on Instagram. But yeah.
Yeah, no, but like, I've been experimenting with that far more, so inside of my classes and turning everything into that kind of where, like, I'll just do drills first, and it's like, so there's no context and no instructions, like just here's the problem.
Yeah, he does that a lot with BJJ classes.
And then it's like afterwards, it's like, how can I communicate to you solutions if we didn't understand the problem first?
That's a really cool way to look at it. Yeah.
Clip
it's like,
that. That's genius.
It's like we can't talk about the problem until you understand it.
Yeah.
You
Have a
know?
realistic understanding of
Yeah,
it. That's a
yeah.
fascinating point too, because that's I think that's one of the bigger downfalls in the way that most martial arts present themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking from experience, I think Krav Maga does that a lot, where it's like step-based. We don't do steps. It's a concept-driven system. But then I'm gonna teach you these steps.
All these steps. Yeah.
I don't do Sistema, but in Sistema,
But if I did, this is what it would look like.
this is what we do.
Yeah. Well, but I also think that's you could take that into any martial art. I mean, and again, we'll speak from experience type stuff, but like Kali, none of the form. Like I tell this, I've told this on podcasts tons of times, and I tell it in real life all the time. But I won an advanced stick fighting competition with a year of Kali, and I did 0 Kali, and I won. And so then I just remember going to my guru and being like, he was like, oh, awesome, I knew you would do good. And I was like, I didn't do Kali. And he was like, you won. You did Kali. I was like, no, I didn't. I didn't do shit. You taught me. I did Krav and wrestling. You know what I mean? That's essentially what happened there. And he was just like, no, that's Kali. And I was like, then why haven't we trained any of that? You know what I mean? But like jiu-jitsu is the same way, where it's like you'll see, they want to portray it in certain ways. Yeah. And it'll be like, okay, but the best one I ever saw was after Will Smith bitch slapped Chris Rock, and it was like every jiu-jitsu instructor had a fucking video of like, this is how I would have handled that, and they did a block and a hip toss, and I was just like, Chris Rock is short, he's not hip tossing Will Smith, that block's not gonna work. You know what I mean? And it's like every rear naked choke defense. It's like if you're a small female and a gentleman comes up behind you and starts to choke you from behind, just do a hip toss. And it's like, no, I can't hit hip tosses, and I'm a black belt. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like I'll hit, I can hit them on Amy, but only because I'm using muscle and no technique.
Fucking bananas poster child.
Oh God,
to be like, here we go.
Everything that's like that's and again, I joke. But realistically, most of you are guilty of this. I'm looking at all of the cameras. But I swear to God, like every jiu-jitsu self-defense technique ends with a hip toss, an arm bar, or voluntarily going to your back and putting your feet up. And it's just like, that's what we're coming up with. Like jiu-jitsu can be incredibly effective for self-defense, but why are we picking those 3 things to be the representation of it? Like, oh my God, man. But anyway, I'll trash on all of them. I'll trash on Kali, but only because I've done them.
Yep.
I haven't done Sistema, so I can only make fun of that because I've seen really bad videos.
I have seen really bad. We were just talking about some videos that I showed Kyle. We're like, ooh.
Yeah. I used to trash Aikido until Joe Zumo, our Aikido dude, started wrist locking really high level grapplers. Like standing, like I saw him take down a D1 wrestler with the wrist throw. And I remember looking over and being like, what? And like the look on his face when it happened to him was just like disappointment and shame. But I was like, all right, maybe there's something to it after 30 years of Aikido. But he's wrist. I had him prone, dead to rights, flattened out, grapevined in, sinking a choke, and he wrist locked me. And I was just like, I hate you. I'm going to retire from grappling. But so I don't trash Aikido as much as I used to.
No.
But it's still garbage if you're gonna, for the most part. But it's super fun and it's exciting. And I love martial arts, and I think you should train all of it. Just know the limitations of it.
I'm just glad I made the choices that I made. Choosing wrestling.
He really had the easiest. Well, not the easiest, but
No,
he did have the smartest path. Yeah.
So those are the
Got all
hardest
that shit
ones.
out of the
He
way
wrestled,
first.
did Thai boxing, and did jiu-jitsu. Yeah.
The split when I started Thai boxing, I was like, Kung Fu or Thai boxing? There's a place. I almost went Kung Fu.
Oh, don't do
Could have
it.
been a whole different fucking.
Oh my gosh, you could have been. I
Could
could
have been
have
on
like.
that board breaking thing.
You could have had a really long mustache. Oh my gosh, the board breaking videos are my favorite.
Could have been.
I actually was researching Hapkido before I found Krav Maga. Thank God I found Krav Maga.
Yeah, I started
Hapkido's stupid
in
cousin.
like karate.
Well, so how old were you when you did karate?
I started so I did kung fu first actually when I was 15. Yeah.
Dave.
Yeah.
Holy shit, you could have been taller.
No.
They would have stretched me out, right? Crane style.
Yeah, thank goodness I drank coffee from the time I was 12. It stunted my growth. I would have been 6'7".
I drank coffee from the time I was born. I got stuck at 5'8". If I stand tall. So,
No, but-
so when did you started Kung Fu first?
Yep,
How old
did
were you
that
then?
So started when I was 14, 15.
Okay.
And then started karate after that.
Okay.
And then started doing Krav Maga, but I actually didn't start as a practitioner. I started by going to instructor trainings.
Oh, no crap.
Yeah.
What was your first instructor training?
So it was some redneck thing down in Tampa. It wasn't even a good affiliation. It was.
Was it like an
some
ATA
dudes
thing?
out. No, no.
Was
no,
it
wasn't
Krav or was
ATA.
it Haganah?
It was.
Because there's a
Krav.
Haganah following in Florida.
I think it was Krav.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was
Haganah's
Krav.
nuts.
Yeah, I think it was Krav.
Yeah, if Krav Maga did meth,
Yeah.
you get Haganah. It's like
Yeah.
you grab my wrist, I'm gonna snap your neck, and it's like whoa, like yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted
Yeah.
to talk shit to you, and you're like, I will
Yeah.
kill you. It's like that the Key and Peele skit, the two UFC fighters. I'm gonna go. Like, I will pull
finally-
your heart from your chest and eat it. What?
He's like, he knows this is a sporting event.
Yeah, right. Okay, so then you went into Krav. So what year did you go into Krav? So that was 10 years ago. So 15.
Oh man, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that. And so started from so I started as an instructor, not as a practitioner in it.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, which is a
Well,
really
but you
weird
had
way.
at that point in time, you had how much time at least training?
8 years training in other
How old are
martial
you?
arts. 33, turning 34.
Getting old.
Yeah.
I'm starting getting rooms where
32.
everybody's younger
Yeah.
than me.
Well, yeah, no. I think this year is the first year I felt a physical slowdown.
Oh,
So where I can't
been
keep
feeling
up
that
with like
one
the
for a while.
22-year-old guys anymore, and I went to a adult blue belt competition.
Yeah.
I was like, I need to compete masters next time. This is nuts. Like I cannot compete with this amount of athleticism inside the blue belt division. I was like,
wild.
no. I was like, yep, this time doing masters, no D.
it's good that you made it to 33 and started feeling that, man. Like I feel like I think I hit like 31 or 32 is when I started
Yeah.
feeling it. But I'll tell you what, man, it's getting.
Yeah.
And I know he's feeling it a little bit because he says more things that I'm like, I know that. Yeah. Like he was messaged when I was texting you the other day and you were like, yeah. I was like, oh, I should have come in and roll. I didn't think anybody was going to be there. And you were like, my neck was messed up. I wasn't very effective.
Very
Yeah.
fun. I did a whole lot of posting and framing, and that was about it.
Could have been my day, Mike. I could have had your number once. Yeah, man. It's age is definitely a thing too.
Oh,
like
yeah.
with training and stuff. But I tried to ride. I used to love doing. I still kind of think I do, but I used to love doing absolute division. And 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, whatever. Yeah, 2 years ago because Arnold was just coming up. I had like a 300+ pound dude sprawl out on my shoulders and blew my other AC joint. And I blew my AC joint in 2010, my right one.
Yeah.
And he blew my left one. And I just like, my wife was just kind of like, are you done? Like, are you satisfied trying to fight young, very large men? And I was like, I don't want to be, you know. But she's like, you know, you have a career. You have to like. I was like, oh God. But
Health
every now and
insurance
again,
is
I'm still
really
full of piss and
expensive.
vinegar. Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
I still got a double egg in the chamber for this.
yeah, 100%. So that's where like I'm
got
like
one.
kind of looking at the old scale and being like, maybe I will cut a couple of pounds. I never liked cutting weight, but it's a lot easier fighting 165-pound guys than it is fighting 180-pound guys. But
Yeah, no, I hear that.
So then, when did you start training jiu-jitsu?
I've kind of trained it for about 10 years,
Okay,
but like
yeah.
but just really off and on, like you know, very very
10-year blue
sporadically.
belt.
Yep.
Yeah, I've been
As I've tried to, you know, coach and teach at the same time, and,
Yeah.
and snag classes when I can, so haven't really found any gym to attach to, and then I do no gi too, so it's like, you know, like you're not getting rank,
Yeah.
like you show up and like you just roll, and
So
know.
you were 23. So you're almost on the same trajectory as I was, except for you actually stuck with karate. Like I started with karate when I was a kid, and then was like, this is dumb. Well, I was, but I
Well,
wish
the
I
thing
wish
is
I
that
would have
was
stuck
good
with
at it.
something at the
So
time.
like
Yeah.
because of length and like side kicks and spin hook kicks.
What are you trying to say, man?
You know that like that's the.
You're saying I
so,
quit
like,
'cause
that
I was
fighting
short?
Style, that fighting
Didn't I
style
tell you
is
I
built
have
for tall
inferiority
people.
complex?
That's a tall person fighting style.
It really is. Yeah, it really is. I would be garbage in point sparring, man. That's like half of like the way I box and kickbox people is I float around and bounce around and then I just go in. Get as close as possible. Yeah. Holy man. Yeah, but you're on a very, because it's, you know, the same thing, man. I got my blue belt and then I opened up the gym that I was running and I just couldn't keep up with it. I kind of disappeared from that. I didn't start training seriously until he actually came to our gym, and that was 16, something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
And then that actually him and the group that came over with him was the reason I got back into serious training on jiu-jitsu. Like I was doing stand-up wrestling and I was doing, you know, I was grappling, but we didn't have anything formal.
Yeah,
I wasn't under anybody. Like if anything, I was the one teaching the classes, and it's like I'm trying to teach people shit I don't know. And
that's kind of it here, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's like, we do submission grappling. Like I don't do jiu-jitsu. You know, it's like, you know, and we mess around with it, keep skills sharp, you know, as much as we can, and
which is good. Like it's how it should be. Like people need to train on the ground more, but
An arm can only break in so many ways, and you'll figure it out eventually.
well, and the overarching principles are rather simple.
Yeah.
It's all the nitty gritty technical little stuff that I'm like, well, you won't need to know any of that for 5 years anyway.
Yeah.
Like,
you know, it's like
maybe we won't do like crab ride bolos today.
yeah. I used to love. I can't remember who the first person, but I stole this from them. But they were like explaining jiu-jitsu, and they were like, "Listen, just keep it simple. Be on top. If you're not on top, keep them in between your legs, and then get on top. And then people's arms don't like to bend this way, or this way, and people like to breathe." And I was just like, that's a good way to look at it. Like, that's pretty much narrows most of it down. Yeah, if you're on your back, use your legs. If you're on top, be on top, pressure, and then break, to push arms in directions they're not supposed to go. All right, and then people like oxygen and blood flow to their brain. It makes pretty solid for it. But I just remember being like, okay, all right, I think I can handle that.
yeah, that makes sense.
That's fine. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, do you think there's like a wrestling revolution going on in self-defense right now?
I think guys that have been around, guys and girls, guys proverbially, 90s guys, all instructors. I think if you've been around long enough, you start to realize that, one, I think it's, I think once you get out of codified techniques and you realize fights can press, and anytime anybody grabs onto you, you're grappling, whether you want to call it wrestling or grappling or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think if you've been around long enough and actually pressure tested anything, I don't think you can avoid it. I think everybody comes to a point where you're going to do one of two things. You're going to ignore it and act like it's not real and mark it otherwise, or you're going to realize that the answer, in my opinion, is wrestling. I think if you had to choose between the two, I think wrestling is the best grappling way to learn for self-defense, because it's hard, it's athletic, it's powerful. Your objective is to be on top, be in control, and just make people's lives miserable. Versus jiu-jitsu. I think jiu-jitsu is more popular, one, because not that it's not that it's easier, like it can be very hard, but to exist as a wrestler is hard. Like you can't even be the worst wrestler on the team's life is still miserable. Whereas like the worst white belt is like you can just sandbag rounds and lay on your back, right? So it's a little bit easier, and I think it's safer, and it's just way more popular. I mean, how many adult wrestling programs do you know?
None.
Yeah, like you have to literally, like for us, like I would have to hunt down, wrestlers that don't have money, and be like, I'll pay you $50 to teach me how to double it. You know what I mean? Like, you kind of have to find it. So it's like I think jiu-jitsu grew in popularity, obviously because of UFC and and what they saw with that, but. Realistically, there's just no access to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's, I think it's similar. Like, I hate to say this, but I think to a certain degree, it's similar to finding good boxing coaches. Mm-hmm. Like, the best boxers are not going to be good boxing coaches because they've been punched in the head too many fucking times. And they're not like, I hate to say this, but they can't comprehend developing a system and a program and a business. I think a lot of times, man, wrestlers fall in that same category. It's like you have to be a certain level of selfish, committed, and have zero self-preservation to be really, really good at wrestling. And I don't know that those attributes often line up with somebody who can articulate a program and do it safely. Because it's like, to exist at the highest levels under that much pressure and then be like, here, guys, let me teach you how to softly, do a double leg. It's like, no, man. It's like, sprawl, shoot, go.
It's very specific type.
Yeah. But it's really interesting to watch because I follow a ton of wrestling pages. But if you watch all those really good wrestling programs, they're populated primarily by, middle school and high school kids.
Yeah.
And obviously they're running up the chain into college eventually. But
yeah, but then they have special programs that are just there, and you don't need to go to.
If somebody started an adult wrestling program and could do it in a way. But it's not, I mean, honestly, that's very familiar to Krav though. Like when we started Krav, we literally were like, why do we have 50 people in a level 1 class, 10 in a level 2 class, and 3 in advanced? And it was like, oh, it's because we kind of gave ourselves the right after they finished a level 1 test to just abuse them. And you're only like the only ones that were sticking around were like people like me that were young, early 20s and dumb enough to stick around and fight and abuse themselves.
Yeah.
And then we started realizing, okay, like first off, this isn't good from a business standpoint because it's like there's a shelf life to that. But secondly, it's like we're not actually making them safer because we're limiting their exposure to material because we're not letting them get past level 2 because they're smart enough to be like, I don't know that, like I want to be able to go to work tomorrow. But if you could develop a wrestling program in a way that fits the demographic of like 20 to mid 30, I mean, God, that would be just killer. And I think it's one of the best things for self-defense. Like if you can't get a hold of a good self-defense program,
well,
you could run a good wrestling program.
Yeah.
Because you've learned how to teach.
Yeah, I've learned how to do it. I think like jiu-jitsu it lends to the roly-poly aspect of it, and wrestling is flat and penny and gross and mean.
Yeah.
So like,
well, and the stand-up is hard.
Yeah,
it's why everyone starts rounds in their butt.
I make everyone at our joint. I'm like, everyone's standing. You can pull eventually, but. Start standing.
Yeah, that's kind of a rule at Open Mat, and I broke it today because I already did an hour of rolling Lascelles this morning, and I was like, no, I shoot it in late, but like my rule at Open Mats is generally it's like, no, you start standing.
Yeah,
I do that to a fault. There's a lot of times where I should just pull guard and it would probably actually lend better, and I'm just like, no.
I'll just pull guard. I'll pull guard and then I'll wrestle up.
Yeah, you're right, exactly. Pull guard to hit a single leg.
Yeah. But I think there's kind of like a wrestling revolution going on because like again people who've been in it long enough and actually dig into the shit find the same similar things, not the same, similar.
So I think the rise of I think more of the rise of no-gi has really turned on people's attention to doing wrestling. Yeah, because you can't not, like you have to perform at that level, you have to understand it.
Yeah,
and, I mean the scoring alone makes wrestling more enticing.
Yeah,
and then every match you see there, you're not seeing guard pulling, you're not seeing
yeah.
Well, and it's interesting too because if you look at like the popularity of Krav Maga when it came up, in the States at least, when it really started taking off, like kind of mid to late 90s, early 2000s, you had a lot of the prominence of it showing up in like you had J-Lo in the movie Enough, and then you had articles about like Ashton Kutcher doing Krav Maga, and that fueled a lot of the popularity of it. But honestly, I think like now you're starting to see more of like jujitsu leaking into movies and
Mm-hmm.
things along those lines. And then you have the popularity of UFC, and that starts to drive a lot of people looking into the sportive side of things. So we get more calls at the gym, to be completely honest, about people that are going like, hey, I want to learn self-defense, so tell me about jiu-jitsu. And I used to be like, Krav Maga is self-defense. And now I'm just like, just get them in the gym. So I'm like, yeah, awesome. We have intros on these days. But I think there's so much popularity and growth in jiu-jitsu. So honestly, I think the wrestling element of it in the self-defense, which was the original question you asked, is like the revolution in self-defense around wrestling. I think one, if you've been around long enough, you realize it's there. It has to be there. And two, I think if you're a business owner right now, I don't know that I'm sure somebody's doing it out there, but I don't know that you can look anybody in the eye right now or market appropriately without at least addressing grappling to some degree.
No.
Because it's just so incredibly popular, and it's really, gained some notoriety as, the self-defense type deal. And it's like, whether you believe that or not, I think it's neither here nor there. I don't think it's the time and place to flex on it. I think it's just a matter of like, all right, like, I think you can talk more to it if you know the most about it. And I think anybody in self-defense that's avoiding grappling, I think specifically wrestling, but whether it's jiu-jitsu or wrestling in general, like I just, at that point in time, it's like, I don't know how you sleep. You know what I mean? How do you look at people and say like, oh, let's talk about choke defenses. It's like, well, a choke is wrestling, grappling.
Yeah,
like you're in grappling range. Yeah, you are now grappling. What is a body lock? Body lock is literally just underhooks and overhooks. Yeah. Like we always used to refer to it as what? Arms, body lock, arm in, body lock, arm out, or bear hugs, arm in, arm out. And it's like, okay, that's existed as a double underhook for hundreds of years. Why are we renaming it? You know what I mean? Like
the wrestler's happy in all of them.
Yes, exactly.
Well,
so that was side headlock.
Yeah.
In Krav Maga. Mm-hmm. And then I started realizing like side headlock, I have a body lock. Oh, and it like completely even just that aspect of it completely changed the way where I was just like, oh, like,
no, I don't do
side headlock's not really a big deal anymore. Cause now if you actually understand, like anytime anybody puts me, like anytime we do demos for side headlock, it's like I can't not go into a split seat belt. Like I just like enter it and it's like, all right, go ahead and pull me to the ground. So I don't know, it's just fascinating. It's interesting to find yourself in those spots, but
it's like, anytime I've pressure tested anything, you always end up entangled in some form or fashion. And it's like, and like, I think that's what my instructor in Israel has come to as well. Cause he went to a ShivWorks course. So he went to one of Craig's courses when he came here to the US, and he recommends it to everybody now. And he's like, I came up with these with similar solutions, not as refined solutions, but similar solutions to a lot of these problems, like just in the last year or two. Yeah. And he's like, this has been around for 10 years. Like this should have saved me quite a lot of time trying to figure this out on my own, but he came to a lot of the same conclusions, pressure testing stuff. And he's like, wrestling's been lost in Krav Maga, and it was replaced by Aikido.
Which is so funny because Emi was a freaking wrestler.
He was. And
he's a wrestler and he did Japanese jiu-jitsu. And like, it's so fascinating that like we've just moved away from those elements.
Well, I think Krav Maga kind of swings with what's popular. So like back in the 80s, early 90s when like it was coming up, like traditional martial arts were the thing. You know?
Well, and if you look at the history of it, and this is one perk of going over to Israel and having the opportunity to train at Wingate, because what I enjoyed about going to Wingate was that they tied in an education piece to it. It wasn't just going over there to do physical training. Like you had to take classes, and one of them was on the history of Krav Maga. And I remember just learning a little more about it. And some of it, sure, may be inaccurate. And I've read some of his journals and stuff like that because I'm a geek. I'm a martial arts geek. I love it, so I love learning the history of it. But he essentially, Emi had two systems. He had what he taught to the military, and then he had his self-defense, but was formulated as a traditional martial art, as essentially an ode to the way he came up in training. And you trained in a gi, and you bowed in, and you went through kata, and you went through all these type things. But he had a distinction between the two. And now you look at the way that it was brought over to the United States. Well, most of the time, most of the marketing was like, it's the hand-to-hand combat system for the Israeli Defense Force. And it's like, okay. But then they were using, like the reason I was doing spin back kicks and spin hook kicks and spin heel kicks is because in Emi's drawn out full system, there was like 70 different types of kicks. And he was very explicit about being refined in the ability to kick in any position, stuff like that. But he also was very explicit in the fact that it's like, this is very tertiary. But when you go over there and you take this, I'm going to take this, and then this piece, and then this piece. By the time it gets back to the United States, it's like the worst game of telephone ever. And then it's whatever version of thing that at the time, Darren is the one that made it popular.
Yeah.
Whatever he wanted to do, and he was a salesman. He was very good at sales, and he's based in LA, and so he did what he needed to do, and he marketed it. And more power to him because he got it in front of people. I think adult martial arts was not popular. So you got to give it to a certain degree. Like he got people in classes as adults. I mean, up until probably 2000, I don't know, at least in my experience, 2010, if you ever went to any of the martial arts super shows and you went to the business talks were always about kids programs because that's where the money was at.
Yeah.
And, he developed, for the most part, you look at it, he really is the guy that developed high-end adult martial arts programs.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff that, you see in jiu-jitsu gyms and kickboxing gyms that are doing well came off of a lot of what he did. But anyway, it didn't come over the way that Emi intended it.
Yeah.
It was like Israeli Defense Force Forms was like, look, we got a bunch of guns. We don't have a ton of ammo, and we're probably going to be hands-on in a lot of cases. And you only get 6 weeks of basic training. So here's this very aggressive, intuitive, right? All the terms that we use to sell Krav Maga approach to fighting. And it was just very aggressive, very straightforward because it was supposed to be for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And then you had the join my martial art where you're supposed to be with me for over a decade and let me teach you the ins and outs of everything. Well, and then you have Darren and a lot of the guys, I came after it the same way, but where they try to take pieces of it and sell it as its own separate product. And it's just a whole different ballgame. I mean, but you see that in any martial arts. And then you have the bastard, so you don't have elements of wrestling, and you have, me doing spin hook kicks and stuff like that, where some of it just doesn't make sense. It's like a really bad translation of something. And that's fascinating, but I don't know. It's interesting to see because now I think and I think you can speak to this too, but I think that now the new gray area, because I think grappling for a long time was the gray area. And now I think the new gray area is striking in clinch range and striking on the ground better, which is what you're seeing out of MMA and things like that. And I think that's a gap we see almost everywhere. Yeah. So it's like now you have people that are training kickboxing, training jiu-jitsu, and or wrestling, but they're toggling between striking range and grappling range. And I think that's going to be the new.
How to blend them.
I've
been experimenting with that a little bit in my advanced classes with headbutts, elbows, stuff like that, putting on helmets and working headbutts from inside control, live. Like not like, oh, I'm going to teach you a headbutt in class. It's
to
like,
admit.
no. It's like we're going to put on helmets and we're going to try to headbutt each other. So like as we clinch fight, and it's like, and of course the volume knob with my advanced people is a little bit better. So we can turn it up and turn it down. Like a lot better.
Say it's just up.
No,
it's Spinal Tap.
Turn it up. And they can protect themselves better. Yeah. So it's like I'll add that in, and like it's fascinating. Like just plugging those like details into to grappling context from close range. Yeah. Being able to headbutt an elbow.
Well, like Lethway.
As
soon as they're clinching, it's grappling, and they're fucking headbutting. A lot of their combos are built in with headbutts. Like 1, 2, headbutt, cross hook. It's like, that's where it's at.
Yeah, it's wild. No, I found that Craig's stuff works very well with headbutts.
Yeah.
Because, so like getting head position, but
head position is just head,
but violently.
Ballistic head positions.
So like it ties in directly, and you're like, oh, angle out, press on face, headbutt, get head position. Split seatbelt them after said headbutt. It's like
it's so true, man.
It's like, okay, well that's a seamless plug and play. That doesn't even require any.
That's like the Icy thought. Mike. One of the quotes that Icy Mike Pasesco was like, he's like, everything I do should hurt. That's how I want it to be, right? So it's like there's head position, and then there's head position that hurts. There's like entering a tie clinch, and then there's flop, like entering a tie clinch. And I always loved that quote from him. He's like, everything I do to my opponent should hurt. Every decision they make, they should regret. And I've always loved that mentality where it's just like bring pain always. Everything should just be like super crazy. But
ADD, always do damage.
Well,
always do damage, yeah.
Kyle, how far are we in, man?
Hour 35.
Hour 35? Okay, like this is a perfect time, I think.
Boosh.
If you could grab my phone, I actually put some questions on there for the Signal chat. So we have a chat with like our 97 members.
Yeah.
And so I put out like if there's any questions. And so I had a few that popped up.
I hope they're ones that just really get us going.
Another hour.
I haven't been drinking.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Somebody
We
pop
need
a
to
beer
take
real
a
quick.
break
Yeah,
and go
yeah.
get some alcohol.
So I've headbutted 3 people in my life. It worked twice.
Yeah.
And then one guy tucked his chin, and like we both just hit like rams and like fell backwards and looked. And I was like, "Are you good?" And he was like, "Yeah." So I mean, I guess technically it worked 3 times. But that one hurt
it is
like
a higher
hell,
risk.
dude. Yeah.
It's
But
higher
the
risk.
first 2 that I did were awesome. Yeah. Well, I don't remember one, and in my defense, I was severely intoxicated at Miami University in Ohio, so I don't remember that one. But I didn't get arrested, so that's probably a good thing. Yeah. I just remember my buddy was just like, "Do you remember hitting that guy?" And I was like, "No."
No, I actually don't.
And he was like, "You were standing there," and he was talking shit about Ohio State because it was the year that we lost. Florida beat us in football and basketball in the national championships the same year. And he's like, "You were standing." He was talking shit. He goes, "You didn't say anything," and then you just went. Wham! And he goes, and you just walked out. And I was like, I don't remember any of that. And he's like, it's probably a good thing. It's
Said,
okay.
fuck the Gators, and he walked
anyway.
out.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
let's do it.
first question.
Dun dun dun.
From Mike Inol, are there any common threads you've seen through training and instruction? What is one thing that you guys see the majority of clients doing wrong, and how can we fix it?
Go first.
I mean, training frequency
Okay.
from the information that we get when we come in
Yeah.
there. I don't know their life and daily schedule
Yeah,
and
yeah.
things, but it's like I'm in 2 days a week, 3 days a week. It's like, okay, how do we boost that up a little bit? How do we make
Yeah,
that more efficient? So like again, like dark flow drills and stuff like that. Would be like 5 minutes before class, start plugging those in
Yeah.
as a warm up or something. Like, I'm not a mistake. It's just life, but like training frequency.
So like that's one of the biggest gaps that like you guys see is getting the reps in.
If I had my druthers, everyone would train 7 days a week, twice a day, and it'd be all hunky dory. But that's unfortunately not the case.
That's because Mike's still in his early 30s.
Yeah,
As somebody who will be 39 very soon, I would say like 4 to 5 days is good. Take 2 full rest days, get a massage, hit the
I'm
sauna.
downshifting. I'm like, another day off. Yeah, that's fine.
No, I'm going to rest. You guys need to train 7 days a week. Yeah. Well, with training frequency, I think along those same lines, it's more of an understanding that the more you train, the higher your likelihood of success. And if you're not training something, don't have false confidence about your ability to it. I think specifically with knife stuff, you know, like we'll talk about this tomorrow, and you've heard us say this because you've been through our courses, but if you're already training, you know, you got kids and a job and all that kind of stuff, and you are squeezing out those 3 hours a week, doing like an hour of dedicated knife defense training once a month is doing very little for you. You would be better off doing 5 to 10 minutes 3 days a week. And so like, that's, you know, where we lob up, do your flow drills and begin, because at least your consistency, right? So like he's saying, the frequency of training is bigger than the overall volume.
Yeah.
Because, you know, a lot of people will go to, you know, for instance, they'll come to a 12-hour course and they'll be like, oh, man, I've done 12 hours of knife defense training. It's like, no, you were exposed to 12 hours of knife defense training, but you would be better off with 2 hours spread out 4 times a week over an entire month than trying to drink from a fire hose for 12 hours, right? So I think that's one of the biggest is the kind of misunderstanding of, I guess, what it takes to touch up on stuff.
Yeah.
But as far as like biggest, I guess, issues that a lot of people have, it's stuff we've already talked about in this, which is imagining that any of this stuff takes place in an order.
Yeah.
Knife defense, you know, in surviving a knife defense, you don't even call it knife defense, but surviving a knife attack, there's really no order. There can be some SOPs and there can be some common threads, but you don't know when the knife's going to get produced. Is it a reverse grip, forward grip? Is it a dull knife? Is it a sharp knife? Is it a, you know, we're talking about like, is it a gas station freaking tie-dye crambit that you found at, you know, Sheets on the corner somewhere? You don't get to control that. The size of the attacker, the aggression of the attacker, it's going to be so different. And so the thought that techniques are going to save you versus spending time learning how to fight. And it's a mindset shift, and it's a hard mindset shift because it's not a simple answer. And a lot of times with self-defense, we want an answer. I want to know that I can protect myself. I want to know I can protect my kids.
Yeah.
Versus, oh, you mean I need to learn how to fight? And even though I learn how to fight, I might still lose.
Yeah.
Understanding that, I think, is really difficult, especially when it comes to a knife. Because
Well, and I've seen that, like switching more to drill-based stuff.
Yeah.
And like one of the things I do at the end is I'm like, who in here lost? And and it's like
all of us,
all of us raise their hand, and it's
We've
like
all eaten
it's
a
like,
knife.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, we all enter into self-defense with our individual like constraints, if you want to call it that, like size, fitness, weight, male, female. Like we can't change these things about ourselves, or some of them you can, but it's a very difficult, long process to like go and change those things, and it's like, yeah. So it's like now you have a better understanding of your risk assessment when you come up to this problem, and it's like because you understand you.
Yeah.
And it's like, do I need to?
And
do
you're
I need
honest
to,
about it.
It's like, do I need to? And it's like, if you don't carry a gun currently, should you be reassessing that? If you don't carry a blade yourself, should you be reassessing that? Because that dude just pinned you for 3 minutes, and you could not get him off of you. And it's like,
But you might be able to stab him in the dick.
But you might be able to do that. Yeah.
Straight up.
Yep. That's one of the only reasons I carry a knife is someone pinning me.
Make space.
Yep.
Yeah,
From the
it's like
bottom.
Craig says,
Like, that's
space
the only
maker.
reason I carry it.
Yeah.
For that one situation. And I'm like, yeah, it's the only time I would see myself using it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and so people start to think about self-defense more holistically, I think, off of that, because it's like a lot of the women in class, it's like, well, how do I deal with this 230-pound dude? I'm like, stab him.
It's definitely an option,
It's like it's like that, or have 10 more years of training.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, you'll need training for the knife too, but it's a force equalizer.
Yeah, it can be helpful, and you do need the knife, and and then choosing the right knife and all that, which we can obviously get into a whole nine, but I think it's to surmise that it's like the honest assessment of your ability and what it would take to survive.
Yep.
Now, for you that asked this question, if you need something more tangible, head position, head pressure. I think almost every time we do a debrief, at least half the room is like, I never realized how important head position was. So there's your tangible. There's your meta and your tangible. We got 2 meta analysis and 1 tangible. Use your head more.
Okay, so this one's from Dana. What is the worst knife defense advice you've ever heard? Sure, want to open up this can of worms this late in the podcast?
That I've ever man, I could go a lot of places. I want to see what Mike says. This is always these are fun for me for Mike because I've spent 18 years around and probably said dumb shit myself.
Yeah.
But it's always fun for me with Mike because it's like, what have you heard?
I've been spoiled to be around really good people consistently.
Yeah, he didn't get a lot of traditional martial arts knife defense.
So I'm spoiled in that regard, I guess.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of internet comments.
Oh yeah. That's
just run.
I always get that they'd bite me. As soon as I drop my hip on their face,
they're gonna bite him. Yeah,
bite me in the dick or something. I don't know. And I mean,
he did 12 minutes of a podcast on just bite him.
Yeah.
That's how heated this can get. Yeah.
And no, you wouldn't. And that's when I'm doing the wedge. The wedge stuff. If you open your mouth during that,
you're gonna break your jaw.
It's not
so bad.
I have your head mushed against the floor with something hard on top of it, and you're trying to separate the structure of that.
And you're on a nice mat right now. Imagine that on concrete.
That still fucking doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I haven't been inundated with crazy shit.
Mostly comments. But I think just in general, any comment that starts with just is most likely garbage.
Yeah.
Just
run, just shoot him. I would just do this. And it's like, no, you wouldn't. But back to the bite thing, we've got one of our buddies, Tim, a couple of guys, but he works security for a hospital. And he's like, I've been bitten several times. He goes, and it didn't go well for the person that bit me. You know what I mean? It's just I loved that when he said that. But
didn't go well.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot over the last many years. But I mean, honestly, overall, I think the oversimplification of anything, and it comes in so many different ways, but the oversimplification, I think, is not only just bothers me, but it really is like that is true ignorance. Like to not actually understand the complexity of how terrible this topic is and how terrifying it is, to just be like, well, just do this, or, oh, well, if you did Kali, I was joking around. I almost made this post the other day, but I was like, I try not to incite riots, even though I have the shadowy thoughts in my head. I just keep them in. Yeah, I filter them pretty good. But one of the things I wanted to say the other day that I was going to post was, the only thing worse for knife defense, or the only thing worse for knife defense than jujitsu is Kali. And it's like, just like because the mindset that some of these guys have around it is just like, well, just train Kali and I would just do this. It's like, no, you won't. No, you won't. You won't do mobility stops. You won't do Hubud. You won't do Hubud. You won't at all. Like, you're not going to do the thing you're going to do. And it's like, I would just do this. So I think the oversimplification is what drives me nuts. And it's really like, genuinely, that is like ignorance at a Q. I'll say it's stupid, but it's ignorance. Yeah. Because whoever says that has never experienced actual fighting. Yeah. To say just anything, we talk about it with scenarios, but like whatever, like when you do evolutions with Craig, we were talking about this last time, right? When you do evolutions with Craig, do you have like a game plan when you go into your evolutions? Like, I'm going to do this, and this.
Sometimes.
Yeah. And how many times has that paid off?
Actually, for me, a few times.
Oh my gosh! Every time I'm like, I'm gonna do this, and it's just like, then it starts, and it's like, I might do good things, but it wasn't the thing I said I was gonna do.
I think it's happened by accident quite a few times.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, but I do very general goals. Like, I'm
gonna
try to talk my way out of it. Or I'm gonna try to shoot my way out of this one, or I'm gonna try to find. My way
so
out
yours
of
are
this
very general. Mine, I remember the one though. I thought I had Joe Bay's dead to rights. I was like, because he had we both had our circus peanuts, his same spot, and I was like, I'm gonna grab his knife. He's never gonna see that coming, right? And I was like, because it's from Ewo where you have the underhook and the tie, and there's 6 seconds to come in. And I was like, I'm gonna grab his knife. I'm gonna start stabbing it with his knife. Then I'm gonna throw his knife away. It's like I had this whole plan in my head. And then it was like 3, which, by the way, if you don't know who Joe Bays is, just Google him. And then you'll be like, oh, you fought a bear. And that's exactly what it is. A bear that is also God only knows how long he's been a black belt and is like started leg locking before leg locking was leg locking. But anyway, and like I went to go grab it and he just grabbed my wrist and my hand couldn't go anywhere. And I was like, well, that didn't work. And then it was just like, it was just like went straight out the window with that. But it's like, any time you think things are going to go the way you think they're going to go, and So anyway, long story short, there's been a lot of dumb ones. We've heard just run, just shoot them, just bite them. We used to teach Cavaliers. Did you teach Cavaliers? Yeah, we teach Cavaliers. Don't do that shit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, and I taught that for years. So Dana, I've taught dumb shit. I've said dumb shit. But anytime anybody oversimplifies and says just. That person has no fucking idea what they're talking about, in my experience and opinion.
How can same person? She has a lot of questions on here.
Nice. I like questions. I love questions.
Well, I'll pitch some good ones. Sorry, Dana.
Damn. Also, if these questions are dumb, it says a lot about David. I picked these ones.
She's coming to the course tomorrow.
Okay, sweet. Hell yeah.
So,
all right, I want the rest of the list. Then.
How can we best retain what we've learned in the course?
Oh, I know an answer for this, but you go first.
Yeah, drill it, do it.
That's it. That's the answer. Yeah, there's no other answer. Practice it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no
a lot consistently.
You can plug and play theories and ideas and speculations all day, but like if you're not drilling the supinated flow, you know what I mean? It's never going to populate in something escalated.
Yeah. No, I've used your hip pin quite a bit on people, much to their displeasure from north-south.
It's so subtle, it doesn't look good on
Kyle
video.
looks at me because I've done it to him.
It's so bad.
He's
it doesn't look
so
good.
I learned that from Mike,
and
you can thank him.
There's so many things that
he gets better at it every.
Yeah.
And I'm always the one on the bbottom, and I'm like, so bad. And then there's times where I forget to close my mouth.
From your course.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
100%. I've never, for some reason, I've never gotten cauliflower on my right ear. I got it on my left ear, but I've never gotten it on my right ear. And so that's one of the things where I'm like, anytime he's smushing, I'm like, turn my head this way. Don't mess that ear up. But he gets I swear to God, he gets better at it every time. And he's gotten to the point where he can put all of his body weight into the point of the hip. And it's always like, he always
On your
pauses
temple.
in the same spot where it's like on my temple and my brain's exploding. And
That's
he's
when I
just
decide
like,
to talk.
yeah, so guys, so what I'm doing right here. And I'm like, yeah, oh, it's so
Silent
bad. Yeah.
internal scream.
So I think I have like probably some stress fractures somewhere in my skull.
Cauliflower temple.
But yeah, I mean, it's just, it's physically practicing is what it comes down to. Like drill, and pressure test and fuck a bunch of shit up and fix it. Like, no other way around
I'd
it.
ask questions, like text us after the session.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
But as far as retaining it goes, like do it. Just do it.
Do it all.
Just do it.
So, are there variations in training techniques when learning to defend yourself versus learning to defend others, like small children? So, third-party protection stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes.
Yeah.
Like you can just run, but if your toddler is there, you can't just be like, oh fuck, and just bolt and just leave them. You know. So I think even the idea of like the space management aspect.
And that's a whole different thing, you know. Like, so like third-party protection is a whole nother branch of you know, stuff that you can dive into, and there's specialists on that.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, there is like, you do have to drill that stuff. You have to practice it. If you can get your kids to, you know, drill with them a little bit and do some stuff. Like, I'll do some things with Maverick and things like that. But at the base of all of that, like, if you can't fight a human by yourself without worrying about the kids, you're going to have a problem dealing with them when you have the kids. So it's like, you got to start there. You know, that's like, I stole that, like, ideology from Ryan Hoover. Because, you know, in Krav Maga, we, you know, at least in the old systems, he used to always teach like a bunch of multi-attacker stuff and stacking. And, you know, the principles are really good and they're really sound. But at the end of the day, if you can't fight one person, you're not going to fucking fight two.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like you got to start there. So get really, really confident in your ability to make space, strike, grapple, deal with weapons on your own, not having to worry about your kids. Yeah. And then it doesn't really change the techniques as much as it changes the context and the application. Yeah. And that also comes down to like, depending on how old your kids are. Like my Maverick and Laney are getting to the point where they're old enough age where I can start teaching them where should they run, where should they move to, if dad has to take care of this and mom's around, how do we get to mom? And if mom's not around, you know, where are you going, and listening to things like that. And, you know, before that, you know, younger kids, obviously you're in charge of them 100%, but to a certain degree, you cannot protect your kids all the time. So once they're able to start learning baseline concepts, you need to start teaching them to take care of themselves. Yeah. Like, for instance, I'm a 9-hour drive from my family right now. So like, I'm not protecting my family for the next 72 hours. Yeah. You know, and it's like, well, I'm the protector of my house. It's like, cool, you're 3 states away. You're not doing anything. So my wife needs to be able to protect my kids. My kids need to understand maybe what would happen. And so that really, I think, is the next piece of the puzzle. But it's always going to start with, from the physical standpoint, you got to learn how to fight at all. And obviously, she's here. She was here at Open Mat, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she's here at Open Mat. She's come back to train. Like, she's doing that side of it. So I think some of it with that would just be context. Bring the kid in, run some drills, and just get used to the idea of, you know, going back to Craig and taking some of his ideas. You're just splitting attention at that point. You know, so your field of vision is going to be split now between fighting a human and also tracking where your other kid's at. Yep. And that just, you practice, just train it.
Yep. Okay. I think that's good for tonight.
Boosh.
I think that was good. Yep.
Good job. This was great.
Fantastic.
Most importantly was the first 22 minutes.
Tune in to the Patreon.
If people have made it through
Come
the
back
first
for
22 minutes,
episode
there's
2.
actually some good information on the podcast.
Come back for more, to learn more about how to hunt squirrels and to punch a deer to death.
With one of those knuckle dusters with like a blade attached. Yeah. So we have knuckle duster defense tomorrow.